Good morning, Grace-Toti and friends far and near. These are selfies taken up very high. They're the last selfies taken by a few of these young people because they fell to their deaths seconds later. Would you climb up there? Would you follow your friends up there if they said, everything's going to be okay, we're having fun, this is going to be awesome? There are a lot of people who would follow and go on up there. And there are about 260 deaths a year due to taking dangerous selfies. Proverbs is an amazing collection of wisdom from King Solomon and a few others. As many of you know, there are 31 chapters. And for that reason, many followers of the Lord have read the chapter corresponding to the day of the month. If you did that for a year, your mind would get rinsed from a lot of impurities and reprogrammed to think in much better ways. Now, I kind of feel like it's hard to read through, a chapter of Proverbs straight through, because each verse seems to change topics and then hits you with this deep idea that you need to ponder. So one way to study Proverbs is to get out a sheet of paper, pick out a topic, and follow that topic all the way through the book. It's really cool. Proverbs covers so many topics like the tongue, money, lending money, listening, laziness, alcohol, the adulteress, the triplet of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, responding to correction, etc. When we were first married, Karen and I used to be high school teachers, and we learned at a Christian educators seminar that there are 4 sons in Proverbs: the wise, the fool, the simple, and the scorner. The ESV uses the word scoffer. We were taught that each of the 4 thinks about life differently, responds to authority differently and rules, and should be handled differently. Today, I want to talk about the simple, since many people just don't understand the word. Thursday, I want to talk about the scorner. Next week, I'll talk about the fool and the wise. Those of you who are parents and teachers, you might want to lean in a bit. The simple, define simple. The Hebrew word means naive and therefore seducible. A simple person is a follower. They will do bad things with bad people, but be really good with good people. They just love being part of the crowd, part of the in-group. Simple means there is one simple rule: follow. Don't think, don't complicate matters, just follow. Simple. The opposite of simple is complex. The word discernment means to see between, to differentiate one from another, the grays from the blacks and the whites, good from bad, right from wrong. What if the bad people are doing something, but a few good people are involved? Then things get even more complex, and the simple person doesn't want to process the complex situation, so they just follow along. Biblical counselors talk about idols of the heart that we battle with: loving control, loving comfort, and people-pleasing. Simple people, they don't care about control. They go with the flow, but they are definitely people-pleasers. They value the approval of other people more than the principles of right and wrong. So they won't stand up or object when something is wrong, because they'll cause waves. They'll get rejected. They'll be kicked out of the in-group. They have a definite FOMO, F-O-M-O, fear of missing out. So the fear of man is much greater for the simple person than the fear of God. And their love for the group sets their discerner at 0, naught. They don't think of the implications of what they're all doing, taking selfies at the top of a water tower. When teachers or parents or the police ask them, did you really think you wouldn't get caught? Did you seriously think no one would get hurt? What were you thinking? The answer is, they weren't. Their thinking is simple, not complex, just follow. Not quite lemmings, but close. Often the simple are raised in really good homes, God-fearing homes. Proverbs 1:32 says, the simple are killed by their turning away, their intentional falling away from the truth. So the simple just go along. They follow. They follow some friends to youth. Later that same night, they follow some friends to raves. When friends say, yeah, man, let's go join the protest marches. What? No. Everything's going to be fine, man. We're going to have a blast. It's going to be amazing. We're going to rock this town. Proverbs 14:15 says, the simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thought to his steps. 22:3 states, the prudent sees danger and hides himself, but the simple go on and suffer for it. And so they follow. They drive the car for their bank robbing buddies. Oops! And they get caught. I met a few simpletons in prison when I worked as a lawyer. Followers, when you follow along with others who commit a crime, you are called an accomplice, and you can go to prison for just as long as they do. Remember that. The hard and sad thing is that the simple can be stubborn, and they don't want to change their ways. The risk of rejection is unbearable. Solomon says in Proverbs 122, how long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? They don't want to be discerning or stand for what's right. They don't want to stand alone. Now, I mentioned before that Proverbs can be difficult to read straight through because it changes topics with each verse. But there are 3 chapters where the narrative stays with one topic pretty much. It's the warning against adultery with the forbidden woman in Proverbs 5, 6, and 7. Chapter 7, verses 4 to 9 highlight that it is the simple, the naive, the undiscerning who get into this trouble. My dad read this to me several times when I was in high school. My son, say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call insight your intimate friend to keep you from the forbidden woman, from the adulteress with her smooth words. For at the window of my house I have looked out through my lattice, and I have seen among the simple, I have perceived among the youths a young man lacking sense, passing along the street near her corner, taking the road to her house in the twilight, in the evening, at the time of night and darkness. But I won't spoil the rest of the story. Read it for yourself. In chapter 9, wisdom is also portrayed as a woman, also calling to the simple. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. To him who lacks sense, she says, come, eat my bread and drink of the wine that I have mixed. Leave the companionship of other simple people and live and walk in the way of insight. So, how to help the simple? To avoid being simple, kids have to be taught to love God above other people. And they need to be taught how to handle complexity, reading people and situations, standing for what's right, or leaving when there's pressure to do what's wrong. Listen to this. The opposite of naive in the thesaurus is 3 S words: sophisticated, suspicious, and shrewd. I thought that was interesting. Look at those 3 words in their righteous sense, and you can see this idea of someone who is able to handle complexity. Following the next guy, that's what cows do on their way to the slaughter. Suspicious people are trying to analyze what's really going on. Sophisticated people are vigilant and can detect multiple things. Shrewd people, they make a plan to avoid trouble. Those are the skills you're trying to develop. So let me suggest 3 practical activities. Activity number 1, find, read, and repeat good stories about actions and consequences, about spies and detectives who are shrewd and read people and situations to expose evil. Old stories are typically better with actions and consequences. For instance, think of Pinocchio, who was a follower and naive, following guys like Lampwick, and look at all the trouble he got into. Yeah, Pinocchio was great. Little Mermaid is bad. Be a rebel, lust after the forbidden, disobey your father, sell your soul to a witch, and your boyfriend will save you. Not good. Forget Little Mermaid. There used to be kids' spy novels out there. Haven't seen many lately. Going way back, I remember the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. They had some good deep plots. Today there are books, ebooks, even Christian short stories online that teach moral truths and standing up for what's right. As a cousin to good books, also you might want to think about teaching them chess, which is about forcing them to think through complex situations where danger is involved. Activity 2, read the Proverbs to your kids and read the Bible's historical events, the stories that illustrate those principles. Solomon wrote his Proverbs to his son, who he presumed was simple. Your younger children are more prone to become followers of the older kids. Not always. Sometimes they're little leaders, but Solomon intended to scare his son with his words. Proverbs 1:4, my words are to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discernment to the youth. So as they grow up, the simple need coaching from God's word to help them develop discernment and wisdom. The famous Psalm 19 verse 7 states, "The law of the Lord is perfect, reviving the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure, making wise the simple." The word testimony there of the Lord is just like in court. What God says under oath about what's good and bad and the people to watch out for, that can be trusted. The longest psalm, Psalm 119, verse 130, states, "The unfolding of your words gives light. It imparts understanding to the simple." So these first two principles, reading good books and studying the Bible, involve combining principles with stories that illustrate them. You combine these with daily prayer for their simple soul. Principle 3, if you can, separate the simple from the bad people they are following. A couple of verses here. Proverbs 19:25 states, "Strike a scoffer, and the simple will learn prudence." And 21:11 is like it. "When a scoffer is punished, the simple becomes wise." As teachers, you get a bad class every once in a while. It seems like the whole class is committed to causing trouble and not learning. It's like there was a demon cloud over the earth in 2004 or 2011 when all these kids were born. Often there is a ringleader, not always the loudest or most animated, because fools often fill that role. But the instigator, the anti-authority whisperer, the bad ideas broker, he or she is the scoffer. The worst scenario for a simple person is when their circle of friends are scoffers. Scoffers are anti-authority. They mock actively and oppose authority. You must nail the scoffer. We saw in a couple of instances where a boy or girl was suspended or expelled from school that the entire class changed and just calmed down and became good learners. Strike the scoffer, and fools and the simple will learn lessons. If you're not in a position to do that, you have the unenviable task of trying to separate your child from them. And your kid will often hate you for a while, and that's okay. But when the true colors of that scoffer or fool are revealed, and there's reaping for what they have sown, there's trouble, an expulsion, an arrest, a death, a pregnancy, the loss of a job, your child will thank you. So the four sons of Proverbs: the simple, the fool, the scorner, and the wise. The simple are the undiscerning who want to please the group, so they just follow. Next time, the scoffer. But for now, have a great Tuesday.